Welcome to Grow My Etsy Shop podcast, the drips of knowledge you need to start growing.
Hey, welcome. So I thought today we could talk about add to cart. I'm sure a lot of you look at your stats or look at your listings and can see, man, I got this listing has like 20 add to carts, but I'm not seeing necessarily purchases that are associated with this add to cart. What can I do? Why is that the case? What are people doing? Why are they adding to cart and not buying? We can talk about all that today. I happen to know a lot about this, so we can shoot the breeze here. So when it comes to Etsy, they do a really good job at getting people to, I think this is the main reason why. I want you to imagine you're at a physical Etsy store. Like imagine if you walked through the doors and it was like this. So keep in mind, you wouldn't see any shop owners or anything like that because you're not talking to shop owners when you're shopping online. I mean, you can do conversations, but you know what I mean. So you're just seeing products. And so essentially when you would walk in, you would look for the aisle that you wanted to shop at. So if you were just like, I don't know, Valentine's Day, you would walk into the Valentine's Day aisle and there'd be all sorts of different stuff in there. And then the idea is, how on earth are you going to remember what it is that you want? Things that you liked. You're going to put them in your basket. Put them in your cart. So as you walk by, you're like, oh, okay. And then you're going to make a final decision later. Now, if you go with the intent to buy a certain thing, that behavior changes. So I'm going to go to the store and buy a teddy bear with a heart in it. You would find the teddy bear with a heart in it, and you would put, when I say heart in it, I don't mean like a beating heart, though that would be dope. I do mean that, actually. I take it back. So then you would take the teddy bear with the beating heart, and you would put that into your cart, and then you'd be like, okay, that's what I'm here for. Now off I go. That's intent buying. Etsy is not set up that way. Etsy is very much geared towards putting in inspirational keywords and then using the algorithm to shop. So that brings us back to the hallway or the aisle that is full of whatever keyword you searched for. Let's go back to our Valentine's Day. And then from there, you're like, oh, I like that. And you start to add to cart. Now, to go one layer deeper, Etsy, then you click on a search, it opens a new tab, and you're going to go back to search if you continue to. So to even go deeper into this analogy, it's like if you went to go look at your Valentine's Day stuff and you're walking through and you're like, oh, I like this. You had to enter into a room and then leave that room to go back to the hall, I don't know why I keep calling it a hallway, to the aisle that had more Valentine's Day stuff. And so you'd be essentially walking, you would see, oh, I really like this bear with a human heart in it. You would turn into there, and then you had a choice. Do I just walk out of this room, or do I take the bear with the human heart in my cart and leave this room? I think most of us, if we were interested in the product but not yet quite sold, we would do the latter, which is to take the product, put it into our cart, and then leave the room. And because Etsy can curate the cart, or I shouldn't say curate, it can hold multiple shops. And so as you're going into different rooms and putting stuff in your cart, those items follow you room to room or aisle to aisle. So it is really geared towards an add to cart culture because that's how you keep your products. So the reason I share this with you is so that you can understand that having a lot of add to carts to a listing isn't going to be the end of the world for you. It's not like, oh my gosh, why aren't people buying this? Everyone's added to cart, but no one's buying. Oh, it's like, no. There are, usually what that means is that you are in a more inspirational keyword. And so people are using this analogy we just discussed, which is going into a room and then taking that, it's like, oh gosh, did you guys ever see that creepy, what is that? I'm going to put it in the description. You have to watch it. It's just a link. It's that Mark Twain, 1985, made by the California Raisins. And the kids are on the elevator and they see the elevator and there's this guy and he's like, I'm an angel. And then he's like, what's your name? And he's like, Satan. And then he like takes him in and he creates life. And then if you appreciate kind of a creepy thing and the California Raisins, you'll appreciate this. But at one point, I remember the guy says that he doesn't do wrong because he doesn't know wrong. And that's a big runaround to the point of people aren't doing it to spite you or because they just are not knowing they're doing wrong by adding a bunch of stuff to cart and not purchasing it. It's just the way that they're shopping. Boy, that was a workaround. The other thing that I think is worth knowing is that you can get caught in an algorithm loop. So what happens is as people save for later, add to cart, favorite, that indicates to Etsy that people are interested in your product. And that does boost you in the organic search. Now, if your listing is very add to cart friendly, then as it gets boosted to more people who are already adding it to cart, the likelihood of them adding it to cart continues. So this is very similar on like Facebook ads. If you run you can choose the conversions that you run to. And Facebook ads needs a certain amount of conversions to learn. So if you're like, I want sales, and then you pay $1 a day and it gets one sale for the whole week, Facebook's not learning how to find your buyer. And so what you typically want to do with lower budgets is move the conversion up, meaning instead of aiming for purchases, you can aim for add to carts or view content. And what that does is it allows Facebook to get more wins so that it can collect more data. But what can ultimately happen if you never move down the funnel, let me explain it this way. If you set it for clicks and you get 100 clicks a week, you're like, okay, Facebook's learning how to get clicks. It's learning how to find and present my ad to the right people. What you naturally then need to do is move the conversion deeper in the funnel. Let's get them to start adding to cart and having that count as a win, because we're already getting 100 clicks. Etsy's figured that out. Let's get them to add to cart. And then from there, purchase. If you leave it on just clicks, then what's happening is you're just optimizing for people who know how to and are likely to click on your stuff. And so you're not necessarily optimizing for purchase, you're optimizing for clicks. So this can kind of happen on Etsy, where if your product is being promoted to people and it's working, but they're adding to cart and not purchasing, then the likelihood of Etsy pushing that to more people like that is higher, and therefore you're kind of in an algorithm loop of being pushed to add to cart shoppers. Is it the end of the world? No, because the way Etsy's algorithm is going to work is that it's not necessarily promoting to just add to cart or just purchases, but it would probably just take a season, meaning time, for it to start to drip into purchases. So what we can do from our end, and this is what I want to talk about, what can we control or do to kind of help people move out of that add to cart phase? So let's first understand why people abandon a cart. So we know why someone would add to a cart. They're in the room and they're putting in their thing and yada, yada, yada. But there's also just legit reasons why people abandon cart. And there's this survey that most marketers kind of look at and know, and it's from, I said that so confidently and I can't remember who it was from. It was a big study that they did. But it was like 40% of people leave because of shipping, taxes, and fees. That's like the big kick out. So, which means an unexpected cost, right? So they essentially looked at a price, made a decision, and then entered into the checkout and was like, oh, and this is what's happening, is they get price anchored early. So they're like, oh, it's only $25 for these sunglasses. And then they get through it and then they see the number $32 once it's all said and done. They're like, oh, I had anchored at 25. Meaning, and sometimes we even push ourselves a bit. I'm willing to spend $20 for sunglasses, but I really like these, so I'll go up to 25. And then then that's when the anchor gets set. And then you go in there and it becomes 32 and you say, I can't justify the 32. I can't justify taxes. I can't justify the fees. I can't justify shipping. And that's where the abandon comes apart, and it's the highest abandon. It's like, yeah, like I said, 40%. Then there's the other ones, which is, this is the second one, which is delivery's too slow. So someone is excited to get their stuff, especially if there's options. They sometimes will even pay a bit more to get a product faster. Think about your own life. Have you ever done that? Have you ever been willing to pay more to get something faster? And I know for most of us, the answer to that is yes. And so this is where, and I do believe this. I have seen this work so well. I've watched people beat competitors just by being quicker to get it out the door. It is a big deal to people. And in a world that we live in today, waiting is becoming even more of an inconvenience. And so anything that you can do to speed up your delivery time is going to be helpful for your store. Let me put it this way. It is a good use of time and energy to figure out how to get your stuff out faster. And I think when you're at scale or you have a product that's working, that should be the number one thing that you look towards in setting up your process is how can I get this to hum? I want to get this thing out the door and moving. You will get better reviews. Etsy will like you better, and you'll get less abandoned carts, which those are all great things to have. So then there's this cluster. So you have the big two, which is the extra cost, delivery too slow. And then there's this cluster that's like the third place, which is that they don't trust the site. An account is required in checkout, or it's too long and complicated. So usually this is where that cluster comes in. It's something to do with the second they need to take their card out. So it's either like, oh, this is a frustrating page. I can't really figure out how to check out. Or, boy, some of these steps seem weird to me or off. And so I don't want to give them my card. Or they're requiring too much information from me. I don't want to give out that information. I don't know. Because what happens is if we ask for too much information, that thought starts to come of like, well, why? Why do you need all this? Why do you need to know it? And that then kicks out your fear of to say, what is going on here? Am I setting myself up? And so that's that third place cluster. Great news. You guys don't have to worry about it. Etsy offers guest checkout, which is a huge win. Signing up for accounts is really a deterrent for people. And so being able to do guest checkouts and stuff like that is helpful. I think most people are signed into Etsy, and Etsy just does a good job at getting people to create accounts and get the benefits of having an account. And so they don't have to worry about that stuff. And then, of course, with trust, Etsy is great that way. And is it long or complicated? No. But can shop owners make their checkouts long and complicated? Yes. And so can you get an add to cart and then they're like, oh, this is requiring more energy and more effort for me to figure everything out, or I'm unsure about this process and I don't know the answer to these and I don't know where to find the answer? Of course. And so making sure that your checkout, and this is something that you can control, is very clear. This is what I always promote. I want you to have at the end of 10 pictures, no questions left. They shouldn't have to go to your description. They shouldn't have to message you. They should be ready to check out with no further questions, which means that your pictures are a slideshow that sells them instead of tells them. So this product is a blank. That is telling them what it is. This product will help you blank. That is selling them on the product. Sell them emotionally, get them to commit, and then you can start to help them through checkout. So the beginning, first half of your stuff is very much emotionally selling. The back half is the logical selling. And then when they're done, they're like, okay, great. And then there's the last one, which is usually there's not enough payment options. So that they wanted to pay with PayPal or whatever, and they didn't have an option. Again, Etsy doesn't have that problem. And then not seeing total cost up front can be an issue as well, which I dance between that. Etsy has done a good job. I keep saying this. You're going to notice this. Etsy has done a great job with this kind of stuff. This is what's nice about selling on Etsy is you don't have to worry about it. If you have your own website, this is things you do have to care about. But on Etsy, they've done a good job. Do I know how much shipping is at the front of the listing? Yes. Does it tell me the duration of how long I have to? Yes. The processing time? Yes. That's because Etsy knows this is important and they're trying to address it as much as they can. If you ever just want to see someone doing it really well, shop on Amazon. Amazon has more data and more funds and has more and does not have more of a business model, or I'm saying that weird, their business model is super direct into getting you to buy. Like that is where they dump all their money, is to get someone to make a purchase. And so the size of the checkout button, the color of the checkout button, the placement of the checkout button, where information is stored, and it is all done by design and research to get the highest conversion. So if you're ever curious, shop on Amazon. All right, so we've now talked about why people would abandon a cart. Those are your reasons. And again, Etsy does a good job. So there's not much you can do other than help the creation of the checkout be easier for them, and making sure that the total costs can be shown up front if possible. and try not to have a huge, and try not to fall for that anchor pricing, which is like, oh, it's only $10, and then they click and they're like, oh, actually they're requiring 23 from me. Oh, okay, I'll squeeze, and then you're like, great, and $7 in shipping. They're like, no. You want to avoid that. That's where that can feel like the fees are adding up, which again is the number one reason 40% of people abandon their cart because of that reason. So you're definitely going to want to have that in the back of your mind. Okay, let's talk about why people do add to cart. Why do they put it into their cart? So FOMO, fear of missing out, scarcity, this kind of stuff works. You're going to hear me say this again. Etsy does a good job with this. Limited stocks. This many people have it in their cart. Sale ending soon. All of those things work really well, because what happens is if I see something and I'm like, oh, I really like that, there needs to be a reason why I need to buy it now. All of these things, limited stocks, there's 20 people have this in their cart, which makes me feel like, oh, if all these people buy it, I'm going to run out. Those are all positive things to help people move towards, I need to add to cart. So they go from more of a maybe to more of a buy now mindset. Okay, another thing is the price anchoring or comparing. So people add to cart because they're shopping. So they want to add it into cart and they want to continue shopping, right? It's what we talked about earlier, just to see what else is out there, see what their total cart's going to be. Maybe they want to buy multiple items, yada, yada, yada. I think that this is probably the most common one on Etsy. And then the last reason we'll probably talk about today is this paralyzing decision, I think is what it's called, paralyzing decision. It's just when they don't want to make a decision. So they want to shop, but not commit. Do you know what I mean? So to go back to our sunglasses thing, you might be thinking, I want to get sunglasses for the summer. I want to get a new pair. So you start to shop, you find something you really like. You're like, oh, I really like this. You look at it, you go through the thing. And then, of course, you want to see the cost. So you add to cart and you do the stuff and you look at everything. And then you're like, okay. So you were never planning on buying. You just wanted to shop. And this is becoming more prevalent in our society as smartphones become a big part of, they are a big part of what we're doing. A lot of us will fill time with shopping. And so we will feel like we're being productive. We feel like we're doing something with our time when we're shopping for the future, but that doesn't mean we need to buy today. So there you go. These are all some reasons why people would add to cart. All right, so now I'm going to have you look under the hood. This is something that I do when I'm working with brands. It's kind of my own personal checklist that I go through, because my whole thing is if I can get people, if someone has 900 add to carts a month and I can get a small percentage of those people to end up purchasing, this is a way to grow their business without even adding more traffic. We're just converting better. I'm a big believer in this. I've seen it work over and over again. So I'm going to share with you some of the things that I do. Some of these things Etsy already does for you. Some of these things you can put within more of your listings. So just kind of hear as I'm going use this as a buffet. Pick and choose the things that you like. So number one thing that we do, and this is for non-Etsy customers, is we look at speed improvements, because this is the stat they give us. 0.1% improvement in speed can give you 8% increase in user transactions. So for us, speed is important. Again, Etsy's going to take care of that for you. Here's number 2 on my list. You've heard me say this a lot. Choice overload risk. When people put too much into offering too many options, it is not good for your store to have so much taking place. Now, before you go off and turn off all your bundles, I love a good bundle on Etsy. They work really well. It's just how much is in your bundle. So you try to bundle things by bundles. Let me explain that. If you are a sticker store that sells national park, Bigfoot, outdoor, mountain biking, rock climbing, you bundle your rock climbing stuff together. You bundle your Bigfoot stuff together. You don't bundle your shop together. So you're trying to bundle based off of interest. I've shared with you, if you haven't done it yet, it's worth doing. Download your orders from Etsy, upload them to ChatGPT, and just ask it, based on what you see, what items do people buy together? And that's what you create your bundles around. You want the numbers, guys? I'll share them with you. 30% increase to those who limit the amount that's of options. Somewhere between the most being 5 to 7. So you may be saying, Jared, why is that number so weird? Because like if you sell sunglasses, the most you want to sell is 5. If it's ice cream flavors, you go up to more 7. So if there is typically more choices, you would go up. If there's, and this is for online sales I'm referring to. If you can have samples on an ice cream store, that opens you up a bit. Now it's gonna bottleneck your operations, but people can look, they can see it, they can taste it, they can see what other people are walking out with, and that choice overload isn't as difficult. But when you're online, 5 to 7, baby. I usually don't go above 4 because I have a really strong testimony in choice overload risk, and it makes a big difference for 2 reasons. I'm just going to share this with you. Number 1 is it makes checkout less frictionless because they're going to choose less frictionless. Is that what I just said? It gives less friction to checkout because they only need to make a decision out of 4. So I don't like this one. I don't typically look good in that color. So I'm down between these 2. Hey friend, which one do you think? I like that one better. Done. You haven't clogged the system. Number 2 is, and this one's important, is that they're more likely to regret their decision if there's too many options. So they get it and then they're like, I should have gotten the mint one instead of the black one, I think. That's what you don't want. You want them to get it and to think, I got the best one available. Okay. Speed improvement. We limit the amount of choices. We display reviews. So this is and I move reviews right up to the listing. So in Etsy, you can display. In fact, I was just meeting with some people yesterday and said, here's a great way to do it. If you've got over 2,000 5-star reviews, you have a slide in your Etsy store that says over 2,000 5-star reviews, and then you place customer pictures in that slide. So they can see a layout of multiple people who've bought from you and how they're using your product, with you saying everybody loves it. So instead of you just taking what the reviews that are already down low and just bringing them up as a curation, which is better than nothing, but it's curated. You know what I mean? It's like people can look at that and be like, well, obviously you chose the best reviews. In this scenario, you've just are saying, so this is a good way to look at it. Like on eBay, it'll show you, hey, this person has 5,000 reviews and 4.9 stars. If you're going to buy a cell phone from this person for $600 and they have 4.9 stars out of 5,000 reviews, you know you're not getting a dud cell phone. But if that number goes to 4.1, you're a little worried. And so all you're trying to do is let them know you are in good hands. And so this is a great way to do that. So speed, choice overload, bring up the reviews, bring in the social proof, let them see the product outside of your eyes. This goes under reviews, meaning we curate and create and airbrush our pictures up so that they look really good. And people know that. But when they see a review picture of someone who's like, oh, I bought this cake topper, here it is in real life, they get to see what it looks like from someone else's iPhone. And that is super helpful. Go back to the ice cream store. I see someone get a cone and I look at that cone and I know that's how much they serve. That's their exact serving amount. Not if I look on the website, they're going to have a big old cone with a giant ice cream on the top and it's going to be saturated in colors. Yep. But I can now look over and just be like, that's what I'm going to get. And I can decide, do I want that or not? And that's what these do. It lets me see something from someone else's perspective and be like, I want that. And that really helps. You got a quick site. You've limited your choices. Your reviews and bringing in other people's perspective is there. And if the podcast ended right here, you'd be in good hands because those are 3 great things to work on. Here's the other 2 that we do. We hit up a retargeting or remarketing campaign because those have the highest ROI. So for us, a lot of our clients have lots of views. And so we can already take everything that's already happening and start to promote it. So whether that's abandoned cart emails, nurturing emails that come from abandoned cart, or just social media or Google retargeting, meaning they start to see our ads and things like that. There's usually have a 3 to 4 ROAS connected to it with minimal effort. Put some effort into that, you can get a 5-6 ROAS out of that. So we run retargeting campaigns right from that. So for me, those are my big 4. Speed it up, avoid choice, bring up the reviews, other people's perspectives, not just reviews, but bring in other perspectives, and then retarget. Okay. So to take one step back, these are the levers that we pull. Lever number 1 is we do shipping cost clarity and delivery. So do they know how fast they're going to get it and how much shipping is going to cost to avoid someone abandoning cart. Now, if you have a great abandoned cart sequence, when you have some discounts in there and all that fun stuff, then getting someone to add to cart is important. I'm okay if the shipping is behind the add to cart if you're set up well. The next one we do is guest checkout, frictionless payments. We just want to make sure they can check out without having to do an account or anything like that. On Shopify, sometimes they require it. Just go in and turn that thing off. You'll be good to go. Social proof, that's reviews, that's pictures, other people's perspective. Reduce choice overload, boom. Target offers, I'm just reading my own sheet here, guys. Target offers and time-bound incentives. So these work really well when you're running paid traffic. It's essential. What you don't want to have happen in paid traffic is that you pay for someone to shop and then they don't purchase. That can be frustrating. And so having countdown timers, having things that this is limited time is good when you're running paid ads. Bundle thresholds, so offering free shipping at a certain amount, discount bundles and things like that, that helps raise the add to cart value, and then building a bomb abandoned cart flow stuff. So in my mastermind this week, I think that's what we're going to be talking about with my mastermind students, is we're going to go through their abandoned cart sequences on their websites and make sure that these are primed to work. Then we do a dynamic retargeting. Dynamic means that you can run your catalog into it. So you give your catalog to Google, you give your catalog to Facebook, and then so if they were looking at a Bigfoot sticker, they see a Bigfoot sticker and not a national park hat. Okay, so this was very 10,000 feet up, talking just social website type stuff. Here's my moral. Here's my point. You've heard me say it. Etsy does a pretty good job with this kind of stuff. It's important to know that there are things you can do. I believe that if, based on that list I just provided, that bringing more perspective and social proof into your stuff is going to be helpful for you. Providing more upfront and quicker delivery speech, meaning you're letting them know they're going to get it quick, and I even think on Etsy this is important because it's a handmade store, that there's a little bit of that fear of what if I don't like it? How can I return it? Is there a guarantee? And if you can, and I promise you this, if you are very upfront to say, unless it's super custom and all that stuff, but for the most part, if you just are saying, look, we make it right. There's a guarantee of making it right, whether that's we return it, we refund you, whatever it is, you're going to love it. That you will see more sales to your store. It is a big friction on Etsy to when you get on there and say, don't you dare try to return something. And if all things are final, and if you get anywhere near anything, I'm going to punch you in the face. Okay. Now I get it. There's certain groups, there's certain people that have very custom stuff and spend a lot of time building this stuff. And if someone gets in, they're like, actually, it doesn't look, you're like a potter, and they say, this doesn't look like the picture. And you're like, because I make it literally for you. I cannot make an exact, you know what I mean? I get it. But be sensitive. Let them know you'll make it right. You have a guarantee that they're going to be a happy customer. And what that happy customer looks like can be subjective, but that's what you're going to strive for. And so if you have killer reviews, great perspective, a good and kind guarantee that you're going to bring them happiness. Some of the service businesses that I do marketing for, they call it a happiness guarantee. And so they coin it as, you're going to be happy. We have a guarantee of that. If you do those things, you're going to help your abandoned cart. You're going to help push that through. Now, some of you may be saying, should I offer, should I do these things? And sure, I think it's wise to take advantage of Etsy, what Etsy's doing in abandoned cart. Do abandoned cart emails work? Yes, they work great. So take advantage of it. And if you still see lots of add to carts, just know this is how Etsy shoppers shop. It's a way for them to store the product. This is helping you organically. It's pushing you in the right way. You might be in a little bit of an algorithm loop, but there's nothing negative about that algorithm loop. So you're going to be okay. Just tweak your listings. Make sure you follow some of those steps we talk about. I think that'll help kind of push some people over the edge for you, which will grow your Etsy shop. So this is another episode brought to you by Grow My Etsy Shop. All right. Till next week.